Western Spring Television, ours it is.
Here are the top stories of the news. Nigerians step into the new year 2023 with prayers and fireworks. Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi calls on all Nigerians to unite their efforts to build a new country. On the foreign scene, Ukrainian President Zelensky tells Russians that Putin is destroying their country. Good afternoon and Happy New Year. Welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Damilola Raphael. Nigerians stepped into the new year today with prayers and fireworks and loud cheers as they said farewell to an economically unstable 2022. After two previous New Year crossovers under the COVID-19 restrictions, Nigerians trooped to places of worship where they spent the first moments of 2023 with loved ones and fellow worshippers. Hundreds of others who did not make it to worship centers gathered at recreational centers to usher in the new year. Anticipation remains high for 2023 in the country, with general elections scheduled to take place in February and March. President Muhammadu Buhari shared in the anticipation and in his final presidential New Year message to Nigerians. He called on the citizenry to forge greater friendship amongst one another in the coming year, promising on his part to fulfill his promise of a free and fair election. As the rest of the world's 8 billion people celebrate the new year, Sydney was amongst the first major cities to ring in 2023, reiterating its claim as the New Year's Eve capital of the world after 2 years of lockdowns and coronavirus-muted festivities. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has advised Nigerians to work towards using the 2023 elections to bring forth a new country. He said this in his New Year message to Nigerians. The former president said although the past year came with its challenges, the new year offers the opportunity of starting afresh. According to Dr. Jonathan, the ballot serves as the most suitable vehicle for achieving the country's shared dream of peace, justice, unity, and prosperity. In the meantime, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has called on all Nigerians to unite their efforts to build a new country. Mr. Obi, in his New Year message today, told Nigerians that 2023 is a critical year and time in the nation, urging them to take back Nigeria in order to resolve all the challenges facing the country as they elect leaders in February 2023. noting that the forthcoming elections would determine the direction of the country in the next 4 years. He stressed the importance of uniting against failed leadership and choosing right, adding that he would fulfill all campaign promises if given the opportunity to govern the country. Calling on Nigerians to support him in saving the nation, Mr. Obi restated his commitment to securing the country, unifying the nation, and moving it from consumption to production. He told Nigerians to hold him accountable to his promises for a better nation when given access to power. Governor Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State says the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar would reopen the nation's borders if elected at the 2023 general election. Director General of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council made the assertion at the PDP campaign rally in Ilela local government area of the state. According to him, the PDP presidential candidate has better plans for the country, including addressing challenges of insecurity and the provision of basic necessities of life for Nigerians. Governor Tambuwal added that his administration in the state had a lot of sympathy for the people of Ilela being amongst the worst hit areas by bandit attacks. In Rivers State, Governor Nyesom Wike has urged the people of the state not to vote for any party or candidate who do not mean well for the state and its development in the 2023 general election. Governor Wike, in his 2023 New Year broadcast in Port Harcourt, said voters in the state must shun those candidates who would fail and neglect the state and its aspirations. The governor reiterated that it is not in the character of his administration to interfere with or limit the constitutional right of politicians and their parties to hold electioneering campaigns and canvass for votes across the length and breadth of the state. Governor Wike acknowledged that 2022 was another challenging year for Nigeria and the generality of her people due to the dire economic situations that had prevailed for too long.
Which is the direct result of your firm and practical commitment to your security responsibilities to the state and its people. Let me assure you that we shall continue to provide the motivational and logistical support you need to effectively secure lives and property throughout Rivers State at all times. Fellow Rivers citizens, the 2020 general elections, which are less than 2 months away, are an opportunity for us to elect the next set of leaders to lead the country and our state for the next 4 years. Your vote and effective participation are therefore crucial to the success of the elections. However, it is more critical to allow rational objectives to guide you in choosing the party or candidates to vote for to avoid the emergence of those who do not mean well for our states and our development. We must vote wisely and only for a party and candidates that love.
Here in Osun State, Governor Ademola Adeleke has declared that the state is set for good governance in 2023. In his New Year address to the people of the state, Governor Adeleke said the last 1 year has been very eventful in the life of the state, noting the major elections that ushered in a new government under his leadership. The governor said in the last 1 month, his administration has laid a strong foundation for sustainable governance of our state. Governor Adeleke disclosed that he opened up state finance to the public in the spirit of accountability, stating that he is reforming several sectors to block revenue leakages and stop diversion of state assets. He said the repositioning of the civil service for professionalism is also ongoing, adding that urgent state matters are being attended to with a view to restore normalcy and bring the people together for good governance. Governor Adeleke announced that by the end of the first 100 days in office, his administration will be hosting the maiden edition of its public accountability forum entitled Ipade Imole, where he will meet the good people of Osun State and keep them informed about the journey so far. He then sought the full support of Osun indigents home and abroad, adding that his administration is committed to ensure people-based development. In the meantime, wife of the Osun State Governor, Erelu Ngozi Adeleke, on New Year's Day welcomed and presented gift items to the first baby of the year at the State Hospital at Shubiaro. According to the Assistant Chief Nursing Officer of the hospital, Temilade Babawale, the first baby, a male who weighed 3.7 kilograms, was delivered at 4:03 a.m. today by Mrs. Kikelomo Olayinka. Welcoming the first baby at these hospitals, Erelu Adeleke, who was represented by her Senior Special Assistant on Media, Princess Adenike Adeleke, urged mothers to ensure that they take good care of their children. While thanking the Almighty for granting her safe delivery, Mrs. Olayinka appreciated the wife of the governor for the good gesture and promised to question her newborn son, Adeleke. Gift items presented to the first baby of the year include diapers, beverages, baby clothes, and cash, amongst others. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We will be right back after this break.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
You're welcome back. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has filed a lawsuit against the oil-producing states in Nigeria over their failure to account for the spending of the oil derivation refund of 625 billion naira recently paid to them by the federal government, including details and locations of projects executed with the money. The federal government recently paid oil derivation refunds to the governors of Abia, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Delta, Edo, Rivers, Ondo, Imo, and Cross River states. The payments covered 13% oil derivation, subsidy, and Shopee refunds from 1999 to 2021. In the suit filed at the Federal High Court Abuja, SERAP is asking the courts to direct and compel the governors to disclose and widely publish the details of spending of the oil derivation refunds, subsidy, and Shopee refunds. SERAP is also asking the courts to compel President Muhammadu Buhari to direct anti-corruption agencies to thoroughly investigate the spending of the public funds collected by the governors and, where appropriate, ensure the prosecution of suspected perpetrators of corruption and the recovery of proceeds of corruption. In the suit, SERAP is arguing that the Nigerian Constitution, Freedom of Information Act, and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights impose transparency obligations on the governors to disclose the spending of the oil derivation refunds, subsidy, and Shopee refunds. Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel yesterday visited his River State counterpart Nyesom Wike in Port Harcourt. Governor Emmanuel, who was accompanied by Governor Samuel Otom of Benue State, held a closed-door meeting with Governor Wike that lasted for 3 hours. The details of the meeting could not be ascertained, but it may not be unconnected with the crisis rocking the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, as well as to solicit support for the party's presidential candidate and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Briefing journalists after the meeting in Port Harcourt, Governor Emmanuel said his visit to Governor Wike, whom he described as his brother, is not new. The Akwa Ibom State Governor said his visit to his Rivers State counterpart was based on brotherly love. When asked if his visit to Rivers was politically motivated, he did not give a direct response. In Benue State, the Chief Judge, Justice Andova Kakan, has decried the dilapidated infrastructure of courtrooms and staff quarters, declaring that the development is hindering the effective administration of justice in the state. Justice Kakan noted that many of the courtrooms had become uninhabitable with leaking roofs, broken windows, and decayed furniture, while staff quarters have been taken over by rodents and reptiles. All this, he said, was a result of lack of funds to refurbish and employ staff to work and live there. He, however, noted that he was not in any way indicting successive administrations in the state, as some of them have made significant efforts in repositioning the judiciary. On the foreign scene, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has told Russians that their leader, Vladimir Putin, is destroying their country. Speaking after Mr. Putin delivered a New Year address flanked by people in military uniform, Mr. Zelensky said the Russian president was hiding behind his troops, not leading them. Yesterday saw a day of deadly strikes across Ukraine, and Mr. Zelensky said Ukrainians would not forgive Russia. At least one person died and dozens were injured in the attacks. Officials said there were further missile strikes in Kyiv just hours into the new year, but there were no immediate reports of casualties. As explosions rocked the capital, some residents sang the national anthem, while officials accused Russia of deliberately targeting civilians while they gathered to celebrate the new year. The head of Ukraine's armed forces said air defenses had shot down 12 of 20 Russian cruise missiles on Saturday.
Цей рік почався 24 лютого. Без передмов і прелюдій. Різко, рано, о 4-й годині. Було темно, було гучно. Багатьом було складно, комусь страшно. Минуло 311 днів. Нам все ще може бути темно, гучно і складно. Але нам точно вже ніколи не буде страшно. І ніколи не буде соромно. Це був наш рік. Рік України. Рік українців. 24 лютого ми прокинулись. Інші ми, інший народ, інші українці. Перші ракети остаточно зруйнували лабіринт ілюзій. Ми побачили, хто є хто. На що здатні друзі, вороги, а головне, на що здатні ми самі. 24 лютого мільйони з нас зробили вибір. Не білий прапор, а синьо-жовтий стяг. Не втеча, а зустріч. Зустріч ворога. Опір і боротьба. Вибухи 24 лютого нас оглушили. Відтоді ми не все чуємо і не всіх слухаємо. Нам казали, у вас немає інших варіантів, аніж здатися. Ми кажемо, у нас немає інших варіантів, аніж перемогти. 24 лютого ми почали творити нашу перемогу з багатьох цеглинок, сотень інших перемог. Ми перемогли паніку. Не розбіглись, а зібрались. Ми перемогли сумніви, зневіру, страх. Ми повірили у себе, у свої сили.
In South America, leftist leader Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva will be sworn in as president of Brazil today under tightened security in the Brazilian capital following threats of violence by supporters of his far-right predecessor, Jair Bolsonaro. The ceremony in Congress begins at 6 p.m., after which Lula will go to the Planalto Palace to wear the presidential sash before a crowd of 30,000 supporters, while some 300,000 are expected to gather to celebrate on Brasilia's Esplanade. The 77-year-old narrowly defeated Bolsonaro in October to win an unprecedented third presidential term after a break that saw him spend a year and a half behind bars on corruption convictions that were later overturned. In his previous years as Workers' Party president from 2003 to 2010, the former union leader lifted millions of Brazilians from poverty during a commodity boom that buoyed the economy. Now, he faces the daunting challenge of improving Brazil's stagnant economy while also uniting a country that has become painfully polarized under Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro left Brazil for Florida on Friday, avoiding having to hand over the sash to his rival, whose victory he has yet to recognize, while also removing himself from any immediate legal risk related to his time in office. Pope Francis has led tributes to his predecessor, Benedict XVI, who has died aged 95. The Pope said Benedict had been noble and kind and gifted to the Roman Catholic Church. U.S. Presidents Joe Biden and King Charles III are amongst dozens of leaders to praise the former pontiff. Benedict, who was born in Bavaria as Joseph Ratzinger, resigned in 2013 because of poor health, the first pope to do so in 600 years. His funeral service will be held at the Vatican on the 5th of January. Hours after the announcement of his death, Pope Francis praised his dearest predecessor, emphasizing his sacrifices offered for the good of the Church. In the U.S., the White House released a statement from President Biden, who is only the second Catholic after John F. Kennedy to hold the nation's highest office. Recalling spending time with Benedict at the Vatican in 2011, the president said he would be remembered as a renowned theologian with a lifetime of devotion to the Church, guided by his principles and faith. To some sports stories, Arsenal have played down their chances of winning the Premier League despite finishing 2022 7 points ahead at the top of the table. The Gunners extended their lead over Manchester City with a 4-2 win at Brighton on New Year's Eve. But Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta said his side have room for improvement, noting the gap at the top of the table means nothing if Arsenal slip up. Arsenal have not won the Premier League since 2004, but just after Arteta's third anniversary as manager, they are in pole position to win what would be the club's 14th league title. To tennis. World number 5 Arina Sabalenka says Wimbledon's decision to ban Russia and Belarusian players from playing in the 2022 tournament changed nothing. Belarusian Sabalenka was one of several top players to miss out on the Grand Slam after Wimbledon imposed the ban following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Organizers were subsequently fined and the tournament was stripped of its ranking points by the ATP and the WTA. Speaking to Australian newspaper The Age, the 24-year-old added that they were just athletes playing the sport, not about politics. The All England Lawn Tennis Club, which organizes Wimbledon, is yet to announce if the ban will remain in place for the 2023 tournament. And before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. Nigerians stepped into the new year today with prayers, fireworks, and loud cheers as they said farewell to an economically unstable 2022. Presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has called on all Nigerians to unite their efforts to build a new country. On the foreign scene, we brought you news that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has told Russians that their leader, Vladimir Putin, is destroying their country. And that ends the Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. I am Damilola Raphael. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year.